Well, when I came home from Africa, I'd already applied to Chicago Theological Seminary and entered there in '62. Um, and I was a year ahead of Jesse. But I remember when he and Jackie arrived in their little Corsair. When Bloody Sunday took place in Selma, Alabama, in 1965, it was on national news. Civil rights marchers led by John Lewis were beaten severely on the Edmund Pettus Bridge by troopers and state troopers and sheriff's deputies of Alabama. George Wallace was the governor of Alabama at that time. It was on the evening news, and 50,000 Americans responded. Jesse came down to my room, and we've trying to figure, what should we do? We wanted to do something, and we said, let's go to Alabama. And so we started organizing. We organized a quarter of our student body and a third of our faculty. Our church history professor said, it's good to get caught in the act. And we said, okay. We went. We got caught in the act. Andy Young, Dr. King, Dr. Abernathy, James Bevel, C.T. Vivian, and others. Not real close, but we met them. And Jesse really paired up with C.T. Vivian. We didn't get to make the march to Montgomery. We both came down with the flu. So both of us in our separate places watched the march on TV. At the same time, we were leaving Selma, Jesse Jackson Jr. was born. But that's where we really connected. And then on our way back, we decided we're going to get involved in civil rights in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And Jesse was selling Jet magazines on the L, on the public transportation. And he was scouting out churches because he knew we needed to have a church base. And we didn't know Dr. King was coming to Chicago at that time. By August, Dr. King had settled on coming to Chicago as his first major city for civil rights. And because Chicago had a strong local civil rights organization and presence, several churches had set up the Urban Training Center for Christian Mission, set up by Presbyterians, Methodists, United Church of Christ, Episcopalians, Lutherans, and their job was to train community organizers, and they particularly wanted to deal with urban pastors. They did not want seminarians, and then as Dr. King became situated in Chicago, he needed local staff. He couldn't, he didn't want to depend on his staff coming up from the South because they had no experience in Chicago. And one of the man by the name of Dr. Alvin Pitcher was one of our seminary professors across the street at the University of Chicago Divinity School. He recommended Jesse and me to go on Dr. King's staff. And that's how we got there. And the local civil rights organizations were really distrustful of the pastors, black pastors in the town, because they had had a history of being co-opted by the Democratic machine. And the machine was very subtle. They would give them a Head Start program or some such children's program. And then if they got out of line, the inspectors would come in. Oh my gosh, you're wiring. Oh, it's going to cost you $100,000 or so to get that fixed. And, to put that kind of pressure on them, keep them in line. And if you don't go against Mayor Daley, we can take care of things. So the local civil rights organizations did not trust the pastors. Dr. King had a program called Operation Breadbasket. which was a pastor's program. And something he had picked up in Philadelphia from a pastor by the name of Leon Sullivan. And Dr. King and Ralph Abernathy in Atlanta, they had tailored it to fit their local situation. And it was a jobs program, basically using the consumer boycott if the company did not want to negotiate and include employment of black employees. With the theory being, you can spend your dollars, but we can't hire you. We won't hire you. Well, that changed. And so that Dr. King proposed that, and the ministers ate it up. And the civil rights folks said, that's fine. They put some ministers over here, and we can go ahead and do the real civil rights over here and separate the two. Jesse and I were named to the staff. Jesse was director, and I was named secretary he had found a church and became good friends with that pastor. Had Dr. King give that pastor a call and say, I'd really like for you to become part. And of course, the pastor loved that, being associated with Dr. King. And his church, Fellowship Baptist Church, became the headquarters for Operation Breadbasket to meet weekly. And this Pastor Evans, was also head of one of the Baptist Ministers Conference in Chicago. They had more than one. But he knew other pastors and organized a meeting and had Dr. King come in and they saw, and so the pastors, would you like to participate in this? And they said, yes, sir. They really did. And so that's how we got involved. When we go in, we'd ask the companies for their employment records to see what their black employment was. And it's usually pretty pitiful. If they were primarily janitorial. And we found, for example, truck drivers at that time were pulling down good money. But we didn't know that because no black employees were driving trucks. Or cashiers or any of the regular jobs throughout the company. We considered ourselves a moral organization, and it had to have a moral flavor to it. And so we developed the concept of the covenant with these companies. It was not a legal document. It was my job to write it, but it was not a legal document. We said, this is a moral obligation that we think we're trying to define a new relationship between X company, be it a bread company or a milk company or a major chain store.
Okay.
A new relationship with the community. You take the community dollars, why not hire some new community people to work in the stores?
Okay.
And because we had, the pastors would go to their congregations and announce, we're not buying X number of milk or so, and we can picket, and we organized pickets from those stores, those churches, until they caved in, and that usually didn't take too long, and so that we could restore a right relationship, and it's fascinating. It did. Not all of them were happy. We had won enough jobs that some of the black businesses that had products of their own, Joe Louis Milk, Parker House Sausage, Baldwin Ice Cream, etc., they came and said, look, you're doing so well in jobs. Can you include us in negotiations so we can get on the shelves of the stores in our community? And we said, okay. And we did. And not only that, scavengers picking up the garbage, exterminator companies exterminating the rats and etc. Construction, black construction, had never constructed anything bigger than a garage hardly. Well, we got to build a store in the community, and to really give them a thrust. And we developed what was called spokes. The hub was our central staff, and the spokes going out, one with the negotiating teams. Another spoke would be the construction team. Another one would be the scavengers right on around the line. We had a women's group, and women in breadbasket. We had black men moving, the men's group. Several groups like political education group, and all those spokes related to the hub